This tutorial is going to walk you through the rhythm of Ode to Joy, and this is the revised version. So this is the one that has the changes now, which make it sound more like the original Beethoven. I'm going to count out loud and clap the rhythm. This is a great way to learn pieces rhythmically. We have in this new piece what are called eighth notes. If you look at the fourth measure of the first line, you will see a note which is above the plus sign under 2. We call that and, the and of 2. And that note looks like a quarter note, but it has what's called a flag at the bottom. That is an eighth note, and that is worth half of a count. If you go to the note previously, this is the first measure of the first beat of the fourth measure of the first line. You will see a dot after that quarter note. So I've added a dot there, and that's called a dotted quarter note. A dot after a note extends that note by half of its value. So that quarter note is now worth 1.5 counts, or a quarter note plus an eighth note. And the way that that kind of plays out, literally, in the music is that in that measure, we would count with the ands in between. So we would count, and I'm clapping where the notes are written, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So again, we've made that first note of the measure longer, and then that second note, which is the eighth note above the and of 2, is a quicker note. So again, that measure, this is the fourth measure of the first line, and you have the same rhythm in the eighth measure and in the 16th measure. So this rhythm repeats 3 times throughout the piece. So here it is again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, the other rhythmic changes in the third line. So if you go to the third line, you will see in the second measure of the third line, this is the 10th measure of the piece, you have the notes 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or the rhythm. So those two filled in notes with the beam or bar connecting them at the bottom, those are 2 eighth notes together. So each one of those eighth notes gets half a count. So they are faster or shorter than a quarter note. We put 2 of them together, it takes up the space of 1 full count, but they're going to be played faster. So 1 quarter note would be 1, 2 eighth notes would be 1 and. They're exactly twice as fast when you put them together. So in that second and third measure of the third line, or 10th and 11th measure of the piece, you have the exact same rhythm, and that rhythm is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, the other change, we've added some notes in there to create those eighth notes. Another change that comes at the end of the third line is one of our new notes, which you're going to learn on page 11 in my version of the book, and I've uploaded those in the next page of the module, and it's the third string open, which is a G note. What originally they were having you play in this piece, in the simplified version, is the first string third fret, which is an octave higher than what Beethoven already wrote. G, here's the higher G, here's the lower G. So in that fourth measure of the third line, it should be, instead of. So if that sounded funny to you, your ear was correct. Beethoven originally wrote it with that third string open G instead of this higher G, okay? And the rest of the changes we've already covered. So I'm going to clap through the whole rhythm once just to count it out. You can count out loud and clap along with it, and then I'll play through it and you can practice along with it. All right, so from the beginning, the correct way for me to count it would be to count in a measure without playing to set the tempo, and then I will count and clap through the whole thing. You should try doing this along with me. It's a really good exercise to develop good rhythmic habits. Okay, here I go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Second line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Third line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and last line, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, deep breath. And the problem with doing this, especially slowly, is that you do run out of breath if you're counting out loud the whole time. So you have to find strategic places to take a quick breath of air so you don't pass out as you're counting this out loud. Okay, so that's the rhythm. I hope that's clear. You can practice along with that. You could also practice playing along with me counting and clapping that rhythm. That would be a good way to practice this as well. Okay, so I'm going to play through the actual notes, but I want to talk to you now about a new way to do it. If you liked the alternation from the previous page, you may play this whole piece using index and middle finger alternating. That's the way I prefer to do it. It's really comfortable that way once you get used to alternating. Of course, if you like the other way better, this finger to string assignment that we've been doing for the past month, you can of course do it that way as well. So I'm just going to play the first line both ways, and then we'll play through the whole piece, and you can do it whichever way you like. So if I were using our first technique that we learned weeks ago, I would play the first line, plucking those all with my ring finger, now middle finger, ring, middle, middle. Okay, so I'm using that assigned fingering. And when I went to the third string in the third line, I would use that index finger. Thumb, 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 index, middle, ring. Okay, that's the way we originally learned. But you could also do the first line, just alternating back and forth. Index, middle, index, middle, index, middle, 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 index. Sorry, I said that wrong. Let me try that again. I'm trying to talk and play it at the same time. One more time. Okay, so you see that I was just alternating back and forth that whole time. To me, I like that way, and when I'm demonstrating in in-person classes, I often play it that way because it's louder so the students can hear me play it above everyone playing at the same time, so you can really hammer out with that rest stroke. Okay, so either way, you can practice it both ways, decide what you like. So I'm going to play through the whole thing now, and you can practice along with this as many times as you want during the week. So I'm going to start off with just by counting out loud. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and second line. Third line. Last line. And remember, the last line is the same as the second line. Okay, that is the whole piece. Practice it as many times as you want during the week. And if you're still struggling with the notes, I would not worry about doing this revised version. You can just play it the first way we learned it. That's fine. The main thing is that you're learning the notes and good technique with both hands. But if you're ready for this version, which is a little more challenging but does sound more like the original that Beethoven wrote, then you should practice this version as well, or instead.